Good evening. I have come to tell you a very simple thing, and yet it overturns the whole habit of life. The world mirrors your focus. You do not attract what you chatter about, nor what you fear, nor even what you nobly wish. You attract what you are in consciousness, what you consistently consent to as true of yourself. I speak from experience. I have watched men change nothing outside and yet see everything outside change, because they altered the direction and feeling of their inner attention. The mirror does not argue with you. It simply returns your face. So does life. If you carry the face of lack, it returns lack. If you wear the quiet countenance of one who has, life hastens to agree. When I say focus, I do not mean a hard stare or a clenched jaw. Focus is the habit of awareness. It is the angle from which you view yourself and your world, held long enough to become natural. Hold the angle of failure, and you will meet failure in endless costumes. Hold the angle of fulfillment, and even ordinary streets become corridors of supply. You have been told to work harder, to try more, to wait upon better weather. I tell you, change your inner weather. A man under a cloud can walk through a market of opportunities and buy nothing but reasons to complain. Another, standing in the sun within, finds doors where others saw walls. The facts arrange themselves around the state you occupy. They cannot do otherwise. Tonight, before we touch a method, settle this truth. Consciousness is the only reality, not the thing you touch, but the meaning you give it, not the letter you receive, but the self you are when you open it. The outer is the print, the inner is the type. Alter the type, and the print must follow. So ask not, will I get what I want? Ask, what am I being? For being is focus, and focus is seed. Plant the seed of already chosen, already supplied, already beloved, and the world, obedient as soil, will bring forth after its kind. This is not a promise to flatter you. It is a law to free you. Let us begin there. You are always attracting your own dominant assumption. Change that, and you change your world. Now let me repeat this great and simple truth. Consciousness is the only reality. There is no power outside of the mind that conceives, believes, and feels. The world you walk through every day is but a vast shadow, cast by the light of your own inner awareness. You see, man is forever searching for causes in the world of effects. He blames men, conditions, governments, and chance. Yet I tell you, the cause is always found in the arrangement of his consciousness, what he consents to as real, what he occupies with feeling. To say what you focus, you attract is merely another way of saying what you occupy, you express. For every moment of your day, you are occupying a state, a mood, a conviction, an attitude. That invisible state clothes itself in facts, just as surely as the seed clothes itself in the stalk and blossom. If you would know what you truly believe about yourself, look not at your passing thoughts or your spoken prayers. Look at your circumstances. They are the mirror of your dwelling state. If a man complains that the world is against him, I ask, where do you dwell in consciousness? For if he lives in the state of resistance, he will find 1,000 things to resist. But if he dares to live in the state of harmony, life will mirror his quiet confidence. I remember when this truth first seized me. I was living in New York, poor in the eyes of men, but rich in discovery. I began to experiment. I would sit quietly and assume that I already was the man I desired to be. I felt it in the simplest ways. I felt the freedom of it, the dignity of it, the ease of it. I walked through the streets that night, as though the transformation were complete. And within weeks, life rearranged itself with mathematical precision to confirm my assumption. This is the law. Consciousness is the only reality. The outer world is nothing more than your inner speech made visible. If you wish to change the outer, you must first change the inner conversation, for all things come from within. You can test this now. Think of someone you love. Close your eyes and imagine hearing them speak to you in tones of joy, as though something wonderful has happened. Feel the naturalness of that scene. In that very moment, you have entered a new state. If you persist there, it must externalize. So remember this, you do not attract what you wish. You attract what you are aware of being. Fix your attention, not on the hope of a better tomorrow, but on the reality of the wish fulfilled now. Live from that state, and the world will echo your assumption faithfully. Consciousness is the root. The world is the branch. Tend the root, and the fruit must appear. You do not chase things, my friend. You enter states. All things, money, love, health, recognition, are merely expressions of the states you occupy. A man does not attract a house, or a woman, or a position. He attracts the conditions that correspond to his state of being. The world moves in perfect harmony with the music you are playing inwardly, whether you are aware of it or not. If your focus is upon the lack of what you desire, you are unknowingly fixing yourself in that very state of lack. Desire then remains at a distance, not because the law denies you, but because you are insisting on separation. When you say, "I want this," you are confessing that you do not have it, and so the law must echo, "You do not have it." Listen to me carefully. The law of consciousness does not concern itself with words. It concerns itself with states. If you live in the state of wanting, you cannot at the same time live in the state of having. The two are as distinct as night and day. So do not work toward your desire as something to be achieved, for that very effort implies that it is not yet yours. Instead, enter into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Live and move and breathe from that inner knowing that it is already so. When I first learned this truth, it shocked me, for I had spent years struggling, striving, trying to make things happen. Yet I discovered that all striving belongs to the man who lives in the consciousness of not having. The man who knows he already possesses his desire in consciousness is calm, quiet, and at peace. Let me give you an image. Suppose you were standing before a mirror. You wish the reflection would smile. Would you command the reflection to change? Would you scold it? No, you would simply smile yourself, and the reflection must obey. The outer world is that mirror. You do not manipulate the reflection. You change your inner expression. Every state of consciousness has its own tone, its own mood, its own logic and behavior. The state of wealth, for instance, feels generous, secure, unhurried. The state of love feels warm, content, and fearless. The state of health feels free, easy, and unconcerned with itself. If you would attract these things, do not reach for them as objects. Enter their states as realities within you now. When you assume a state, even for a moment, you have planted its seed. Persist in that assumption until it grows roots, until it feels more natural than the state you left behind. Then the world must mirror it. It has no choice. And if you find yourself saying, "But Neville, how can I feel wealthy when I have nothing? How can I feel loved when I am alone?" I tell you, you are misplacing reality. The outer facts are the shadows. The inner feeling is the cause. You do not wait for the shadow to change before you move the object. You move the object, the self, in consciousness, and the shadow follows. So tonight I ask you, cease chasing things. Withdraw your focus from the lack, and gently, deliberately enter the state of fulfillment. Feel it as though it were now. Let the mood of having replace the mood of wanting, and the world, obedient as ever, will rearrange itself to fit your new state. Feeling, my friends, is the secret of focus. You may think with your mind, but you create with your feeling. Every imaginal act, every thought clothed with emotion, becomes a living seed cast into the fertile soil of the subconscious. You must understand this clearly. Cold, mechanical wishing produces nothing. A man may repeat, "I am rich," 1,000 times and still remain poor, if his feeling continues to testify otherwise. The subconscious does not respond to words. It responds to the vibration of belief, the emotional tone of what you hold to be true. There is a vast difference between cold wishing and warm assumption. Wishing is hoping that something outside yourself will change. Assumption is knowing that the change has already taken place within you. The one pleads, the other claims. When you wish, you pray from separation. When you assume, you pray from union. One says, "If only this could be." The other quietly affirms, "It is so." Let me share an example from my own life. When I first began to test this principle, I desired to travel back to my island home of Barbados, though I had not the means to do so. Each night, I would lie in bed and imagine myself in my mother's home. I could smell the salt air, hear the familiar voices in the yard, and feel the damp, tropical warmth upon my skin. I did not think about how I would get there. I simply felt myself there. That feeling became natural, and within weeks the passage was provided in the most natural way. It was not the words that moved the world. It was the feeling of being there. The feeling was the seed. Life provided the bridge. You see, feeling is not something you add at the end of a thought. It is the very essence of focus itself. To focus without feeling is to draw an empty outline upon the air. To focus with feeling is to give that outline substance and color. When I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion in the sense of excitement or frenzy. The feeling that creates is a quiet conviction, a deep inner knowing that something already is. It is the same calm certainty you feel when you say, I am. You do not doubt that you are. You simply know it. That same knowing, directed toward any desire, brings it forth. So I tell you, if you wish to attract differently, feel differently. If you desire wealth, feel the ease, the generosity, the quiet confidence of wealth. If you desire love, feel cherished, feel chosen, feel the warmth of companionship. Let that feeling become your dwelling place, not a fleeting visitor. Most people fail because they live from the state of waiting for the outer world to give them permission to feel fulfilled. But the world only reflects back the feeling already accepted within. Change the inner feeling, and the outer must follow, just as surely as morning follows night. Remember always, feeling is the secret. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. The moment you feel the reality of your wish fulfilled, even before the evidence appears, you have planted the seed. And if you will remain faithful to that inner knowing, without digging it up to see if it grows, the harvest will come in its own perfect season. Now, let me speak to you about prayer, for very few truly understand what prayer is. Prayer is not words muttered into the air, nor is it the repetition of pious phrases before sleep. True prayer is attention fused with feeling. It is the art of living from the end. When you pray correctly, you do not plead with some distant power. You identify yourself with the state desired and live from it as though it were already accomplished. You are not asking for something. You are assuming that it is already yours. The world calls that imagination. I call it creation. To pray successfully, you must enter the very mood that would be yours if your wish were already fulfilled. You must feel it so naturally that you can carry on a conversation from that position of fulfillment. Imagine, if you will, what a friend would say to you if he learned that your desire had come true. Hear his voice, see his face, feel the handshake or the embrace or the quiet satisfaction of shared joy. That inner drama is prayer. You do not have to force the scene or strain to make it vivid. Allow it to form of itself, guided by the emotion of the wish fulfilled. The key is not the detail. It is the feeling of completion. Many people tell me, Neville, I have prayed for months and nothing has happened. And I ask them, from what state did you pray? Most of them have prayed from lack, from worry, from hope that someday it will come. But the true prayer is made from fulfillment, from the conviction that it already has come. The scriptures say, when ye pray, believe that you have received, and ye shall receive. That is the law in its simplest form. To believe that you have received is to mentally and emotionally occupy the state of already having. When I pray, I close my eyes and withdraw from the evidence of my senses. I turn away from the outer world, as though it were but the fading echo of yesterday's assumptions. I enter into a scene that implies the fulfillment of my desire, and I let it absorb me until it feels like home. Then, I simply rest in that feeling. That rest, that Sabbath, is the surest sign that the prayer is complete. You see, prayer is not an effort to get something to happen. It is the quiet acceptance that it already has. The moment you feel it real, the work is done. It may not yet have appeared in the three-dimensional world, but in the world of imagination, the only real world, it is finished. From that instant on, your only task is faithful persistence. Do not return to the old state by worrying or doubting. Continue to walk, speak, and feel from the end you have claimed, and life must, by law, mirror it back to you. This is the secret of true prayer. Not supplication, but identification. Not begging, but being. Now let us speak of what I call the mental diet, the daily bread of your mind. You see, prayer is not confined to the few minutes before sleep, or to the quiet moment in solitude. You are always praying, always focusing, always sowing. Every inner conversation, every reaction, every judgment you silently pass upon yourself or another. These are seeds cast into the fertile ground of your subconscious. Most people speak carelessly within themselves. They rise in the morning and immediately begin to complain, to worry, to reenact their disappointments of yesterday. They rehearse trouble as though they were paid to do it. Then when life faithfully reproduces those inner monologues, they call it fate or misfortune. But it is not fate, it is harvest. Your inner speech is the channel through which your consciousness continually pours itself into form. You may smile in conversation and yet curse yourself silently, and the world, sensitive only to that inner tone, will answer accordingly. So I say to you, watch your inner speech. It is not the outer word that matters most, but the quiet commentary that accompanies your every act. You may say aloud, all is well, but if within you a small doubting voice whispers, it never works for me, that whisper is the true prayer, and it will be answered with precision. I remember a friend who once came to me and said, Neville, I have practiced your methods faithfully, yet my world still contradicts my desire. I asked him to recount, not his meditations, but his daily inner talk. Within moments he revealed it. Phrases like, I can't afford it, it always takes so long, people never change. He had prayed in the evening, but cancelled his prayer every hour of the day with idle speech. The remedy is simple, though it demands vigilance. Begin now to discipline your inner words. Make them gentle, affirmative, and loving. When the old thought rises, it's hopeless. I'm too late. I can't. Do not fight it. Simply replace it. Whisper to yourself, all things are possible to him who believes. Or better still, phrase it in the first person. All things are possible to me. You will discover that this watchfulness, practiced kindly and consistently, transforms your life as surely as spring follows winter. Every statement you make about yourself, every description of your day, every conclusion you draw, these are prayers. The world is not listening to your lips. It is echoing your assumptions. Therefore, let your inner conversation this day be aligned with your desire fulfilled. If you seek peace, speak peace within. If you desire wealth, speak abundance. If you long for love, speak warmth and acceptance. Remember, tomorrow's circumstances are the fruit of today's mental diet. Feed the mind noble thoughts and generous feelings, and life will become the mirror of your chosen words. So guard your speech, not as a soldier guards a fortress, but as a gardener tends his flowers. For every careless word is a weed, and every word spoken in faith is a seed of blessing. Now let us move to a truth that many resist at first, though it is the key to freedom. Everyone is you pushed out. By this I mean that every man, woman, and circumstance in your life is but the outer expression of an assumption you hold within yourself. There is no one acting independently of your consciousness. Others are drawn into your world, not by chance, but by the silent magnet of your inner state. This truth may seem difficult, even unjust, to those who have not yet understood the law. But I tell you, the moment you accept it, you will cease blaming and begin creating consciously. The world is yourself, objectified. The people you meet are mirrors, showing you what you believe about life, about love, about power, about yourself. The unkind man who seems to mistreat you reflects the secret belief that you can be mistreated. The generous friend who blesses you mirrors the conviction that life is kind and abundant. You cannot hold a belief about another and escape its reflection, for there is no other in the creative act. All is one consciousness, individualized in countless forms. Years ago, I put this law to the test in what seemed a very small matter. There was a man who constantly opposed me in business. Each meeting with him left me uneasy and resentful. Then, one evening, As I walked through the park, I decided to revise my opinion of him. I closed my eyes and imagined him smiling, shaking my hand with warmth, calling me his friend. I persisted in that simple act for a few nights, feeling the naturalness of our reconciliation. When next we met, the very scene I had imagined played out before my eyes. He greeted me cordially, spoke with unexpected kindness, and our difficulties dissolved without a word about the past. I did not change him. I changed my conception of him, and he, being myself pushed out, reflected the change perfectly. So I tell you, do not attempt to fix people with argument, persuasion, or complaint. Withdraw instead into the silence of your own mind and see them differently. Hear them speak words of kindness. Imagine them acting in harmony with your wish. Persist in that inner vision until it feels real. Then rest, knowing that the outer scene will conform to your new assumption. If you believe that others are cruel, you will encounter cruelty. If you assume that others are loving, you will meet love. For each man shows you the face you are secretly painting upon him in imagination. This is why forgiveness is so powerful. To forgive is not to excuse another's act. It is to erase the image of separation and to restore unity in consciousness. When you forgive, you say inwardly, "There is no other, I am He." And from that unity, all discord melts away. So remember this simple truth. Everyone is you pushed out. The world will never change until you change the way you see it. And when you do, every man you meet will rise to the level of your new vision. Now that you understand that everyone is yourself pushed out, let me tell you how life obeys your new assumption through what I call the bridge of incidents. Once you have fixed your focus upon the end, the wish fulfilled, the entire universe begins to move in perfect harmony to bring it about. You do not need to plan the way, for the way is prepared the moment the end is accepted. This bridge is not built by effort or intellect. It unfolds naturally, step by step, through the circumstances of your daily life. Each event, each meeting, each delay, even what seems at first a disappointment, becomes a plank in that invisible bridge, leading you to the realization of your assumption. You may not recognize it while you are walking upon it. In fact, many abandon their assumption because the bridge does not resemble the destination. They imagine that progress must always appear pleasant, that every event must shout success. But often the bridge seems to pass through confusion, through endings, through doors closing, only to open the very gate you have long desired. I remember many years ago when I desired to leave the theater and devote myself entirely to teaching this law. At the time, I had no means to do so. Then suddenly, the opportunity I counted on vanished. A position I expected was withdrawn. For a moment, I was disheartened, but I remembered the law, and instead of resisting, I rested in the end, in the feeling that I was already free, already teaching, already living from this truth. Within a few weeks, a new sequence of events unfolded, one so natural that looking back, I could not have planned it better. What I thought was a loss proved to be the very turning point that set the bridge in motion. So I tell you, do not concern yourself with how your desire will come to pass. The bridge of incidents is the answer to that question, and it is woven from threads you could not possibly arrange with your conscious mind. Your task is not to build the bridge. Your task is to walk in faith, to live each day from the feeling of fulfillment, trusting that every step, whether smooth or rough, is carrying you toward the visible realization of your inner state. When something unexpected occurs, do not say, "This cannot be part of my desire." Instead, remind yourself, this too is the bridge. And one day, as naturally as the dawn, you will find yourself standing in the very place you had imagined, wondering how it all came together so perfectly. Then you will know that focus, held with faith, reorganizes the world without your effort or planning. Now, my friend, I wish to speak of a power few dare to use, though it stands ready in every man, the power of revision. You see, the past is not fixed as men believe. Memory is not a stone wall. It is a living field capable of being reseeded. Every event that has ever touched you still lives in consciousness, and because it lives, it can be redeemed. Most people drag the weight of old hurts and disappointments behind them, unaware that they are carrying those memories into each new day. They speak of betrayal, of failure, of rejection, and wonder why similar experiences repeat themselves. It is simple, they have never changed their focus upon those memories. They keep watering the same weeds. But you, once you understand this law, are no longer a slave to the past. You can revise it. You can change your focus of memory as surely as you change your focus of desire. Let me tell you how I do it. Each night, before I sleep, I review the day, not with regret, but with imagination. I look back upon any scene that troubled me, a harsh word, a missed opportunity, a moment of embarrassment, and then, in the stillness of my mind, I rewrite it. If someone spoke unkindly, I hear instead the words I wish had been spoken, words of understanding and love. If I made an error, I see myself performing the act with grace and success. If a door seemed to close, I imagine it opening. I do not try to forget the incident. I replace it in memory with the scene as it ought to have been. I persist until the new version feels more natural than the old. And as I drift into sleep, I carry with me that revised day. Now listen carefully. Because the subconscious mind is not limited by time, this simple act of revision changes the future as well as the past. The revised scene becomes the seed of a new chain of events. The outer world reshapes itself to confirm the new memory, and what once seemed lost or broken is restored in ways beyond comprehension. I recall a student who came to me, burdened by a quarrel with her sister that had lasted for years. I asked her not to call or write, but simply to revise the moment of their last meeting. Each night she imagined her sister embracing her with affection, saying, "I'm so glad we understand each other now." Within a week, that very event took place in the outer world. A letter arrived, followed by reconciliation. You see, when you change your inner record, the outer orchestra must play a new melody. So do not say, "It is too late." Nothing is too late, for creation is ongoing, and the past exists only as a present state of consciousness. Alter the state, and the past itself is reborn. Try it tonight. Review your day, and where it falls short of your ideal, revise it lovingly. Feel the joy of the new outcome. Sleep in that satisfaction, and you will awaken to a transformed tomorrow. Remember always, the present is never chained to the past. It is chained only to the memory of the past. Change the memory, and you free the present. Now let us speak of the practical application of all that we have discussed. The nightly practice I have called the state akin to sleep, or simply SATS. This is the most fertile period for creation, for in those moments between wakefulness and sleep, your mind is open and receptive. The conscious guard is lowered, and the subconscious, your faithful servant, listens and accepts whatever impression you offer it. Each night, as you prepare for rest, you hold in your hands the key to the kingdom. Most people squander that sacred moment, letting their minds wander to the troubles of the day, the bills to be paid, or the words left unsaid. They drift into sleep rehearsing limitation, and so they awake to find the same world waiting for them. But you, if you will use this simple routine, may transform your entire life. Here is what I do. First, I make myself physically still. I lie upon my bed as though I had no intention of moving again. The body must be relaxed, utterly quiet, for the body's rest stills the mind. Second, I choose a scene that implies the fulfillment of my desire, not the act of getting it, but the moment after it is obtained. If my desire were for success, I might imagine shaking hands with a friend who congratulates me. If it were for love, I might imagine the warmth of an embrace. If for healing, I might feel the lightness of perfect health. Third, I let that scene come alive. I do not think of it as a spectator looking on. I enter it and see the world from within it. I look at my hands, hear the sounds of the room, sense the rhythm of breath. I make the imaginal act so vivid that it begins to feel realer than the outer world. Fourth, I allow the feeling of completion, that quiet joy, that peace of knowing it is done, to flood my being. I do not force it. I do not repeat words like a machine. I simply feel as though the wish were fulfilled. And finally, I let that feeling carry me into sleep. I fall asleep in the act, not after it. I sleep as though it were true, not merely hoping that it might become true. For in that drowsy borderland between waking and sleeping, the imagination and the subconscious are one. What you feel real in that state is planted deep, and in its appointed hour, it must appear in your world. This nightly practice is not difficult. It requires only constancy and sincerity. The outer world, my friend, is but the slow echo of the inner word. Speak that word clearly, each night through the language of feeling, and you will discover that creation is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens through you. So tonight, when you retire, enter your chosen scene. Make it vivid. Feel it natural. Let it lull you to rest. For the state you fall asleep in is the state you carry into the morning, and life will always mirror the state in which you rest. And now, my friend, as we come to the close of this hour, I ask only one thing of you: live the law. Do not let these truths remain as words in a notebook or as pleasant ideas you discuss with others. Take them into the quiet of your own chamber and prove them. This teaching is not meant to be admired. It is meant to be lived. You have heard that what you focus upon, you attract. Now make this your daily rule. Guard your focus. Watch carefully where your attention rests, for it is the brush that paints your world. If you find it drifting toward fear, bring it gently back to faith. If you catch yourself rehearsing limitation, stop and feel freedom instead. Remember, you are not a victim of conditions, you are the cause of them. The world is your mirror, showing you your own assumptions in solid form. If you dislike what you see, do not curse the reflection. Change the assumption. Dare to occupy the state you desire. Walk as though it were already yours. Speak as though the promise were fulfilled. Feel as though you already stand where you long to be. For when the inner state becomes natural, the outer must conform. It is law, and the law never fails. Each morning when you rise, remind yourself, today, I choose my focus. I shall dwell only upon that which I wish to see expressed. And each night, before sleep, enter once more into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Between those two moments, rising and resting, you will have shaped eternity. Now take these words not as instruction, but as remembrance. You have always been this creative power. You are the awareness that gives life to every image within. You are the dreamer dreaming this world into being. There is no greater secret than this. You become what you consent to believe. So tonight, as you close your eyes, affirm quietly and sincerely, I am the one who chooses. I am the one who directs my focus. I live from the end, and the end is already mine. I am the awareness that creates. I am the power behind all things. Feel those words until they are not a statement but a truth, echoing through every part of you. Let them become your rhythm of being. And as you go forth into your days, remember your focus is your prayer, your imagination, your temple, and your feeling, the very hand of God shaping creation. Live from that knowing, and you shall see heaven unfold before your very eyes. Good night, and remember always, what you focus, you attract. Guard it well, for it is your life.